I submitted it to Gene Hackman, and Gene I'd known for many years, but we'd never worked together. And he was in a mood at that time. He says, I don't want to do any more violent pictures. I'm tired of it. I've been involved with a lot of them. He says, I'm really tired of it. And I said, I know exactly where you're coming from, but read it again, because I think we can make a great statement against violence.
Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman are two of the greatest actors Hollywood has ever seen. But what happens between two legends when their careers cross paths, only to take different directions later? Well, in today's episode, we will take a deep look at their relationship, how they worked together, where they clashed, and why they eventually drifted apart. They built legendary careers with unforgettable performances. But what many people don't know is the complex relationship they shared behind the scenes. For decades, they worked together, clashed, respected each other, and eventually drifted apart. Their first major interaction happened during the early 1970s. At the time, both were rising stars, but their careers had taken different paths. Eastwood had already gained fame from his role in Rawhide and his spaghetti westerns with director Sergio Leone. These films, including The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, made him an international star. Meanwhile, Hackman was gaining attention for his intense and emotionally layered performances. He had yet to become a household name, but his talent was undeniable. They first worked together on The Beguiled, a 1971 film set during the Civil War. Eastwood played a wounded Union soldier who was taken in by a group of Southern women. Hackman had a smaller role, but even behind the scenes, their differences were clear. Eastwood was known for his minimalistic acting style. He believed in letting silence and body language do the work. He rarely over-explained his emotions, letting the audience interpret his characters in their own way. Hackman was the complete opposite. He was an actor who liked to dive deep into a character's psychology. Every line, every movement, every emotion had to come from a place of authenticity. He was known to push for deeper emotional responses, sometimes questioning the motivations of a scene. This difference in approach led to some creative disagreements between the two actors. At the time, Eastwood was still developing his confidence as an actor. Hackman, though not as famous yet, was already a powerhouse performer. He was trained in method acting and brought intense energy to every scene. Eastwood, coming from a background in television and westerns, was used to a more relaxed, instinctual style. Their personalities clashed in small ways on The Beguiled, but their respect for each other's abilities was clear. Despite their differences, both men had a similar drive to succeed. Eastwood came from a working-class background in California. He worked odd jobs before landing his big break on Rawhide in 1959. The show ran for 8 seasons, giving him a steady career. But he wanted more. That's when he took a risk and flew to Italy to work with Sergio Leone. The move changed his life, turning him into a Hollywood icon. Hackman's journey was very different. He was born in San Bernardino, California, but moved around a lot due to his troubled family life. He enlisted in the Marine Corps at 16, later studying acting in New York. Unlike Eastwood, who found early success, Hackman struggled for years. He worked as a furniture mover and a doorman while chasing acting jobs. His big break came in 1971 when he played Popeye Doyle in The French Connection. The role won him an Academy Award and put him on Hollywood's A-list. As their careers skyrocketed, their paths crossed again. In 1992, they reunited for Unforgiven, a western directed by Eastwood. This time, Eastwood was not just acting. He was also directing and producing. He had become one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers, known for his efficient, no-nonsense directing style. But what happens when two Hollywood legends, each with their own way of working, clash on set? On set, their old differences resurfaced. Eastwood, as always, preferred a quiet, reserved approach. Hackman, playing the aggressive and unpredictable sheriff, brought explosive energy to his scenes. Some crew members noted moments of tension, especially when Hackman wanted to do multiple takes to explore different emotions. Eastwood, who liked to work quickly, preferred to move on once he felt they had a good take. Despite these differences, Unforgiven was a massive success. The film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood. Hackman also won Best Supporting Actor for his chilling performance. Their collaboration on Unforgiven proved that their differences could create magic on screen. After Unforgiven, their careers took different directions. Eastwood focused more on directing, making films like $1 Million Baby, Mystic River, and Gran Torino. He continued acting but became more selective with his roles. His filmmaking style remained efficient and straightforward, earning him multiple Oscars and cementing his legacy as one of Hollywood's greatest directors. Hackman, on the other hand, continued acting for another decade, but eventually stepped away from Hollywood. He starred in hits like The Firm, Crimson Tide, and The Royal Tenenbaums. Unlike Eastwood, who was known for his calm and quiet nature, Hackman was more expressive and vocal. Eastwood preferred to let his performances speak for themselves, rarely overanalyzing scenes or discussing motivations in depth. Hackman liked to dive deep into his characters, analyzing every aspect of their personalities and emotions. This difference in style sometimes created tension between them. Eastwood had already made a name for himself as an action star and director, while Hackman was widely respected for his ability to play complex characters. Both men were at the peak of their careers when they worked on Unforgiven. The film was a Western, but it was not a typical cowboy movie. It was darker, more realistic, and focused on the moral dilemmas of its characters. Eastwood not only starred in it, but also directed it, playing the role of William Money, a retired outlaw who was forced back into action. Hackman played the role of Little Bill Daggett, a corrupt sheriff who rules with an iron fist. Their on-screen dynamic was intense. Money and Little Bill were on opposite sides of the law, and their interactions were filled with tension. Watching them together was like watching two powerful forces collide. But what many people didn't know was that this tension wasn't just acting. Off camera, Eastwood and Hackman had their own conflicts. Clint was used to having full control over his films. He didn't appreciate it when actors questioned his choices. This sometimes led to heated discussions on set. There was one particular scene in Unforgiven that highlighted their differences. Hackman was supposed to deliver a line in a specific way, but he decided to improvise, adding his own touch to the performance. Eastwood immediately stopped the take and told Hackman to stick to the script. Hackman, used to more creative freedom, wasn't happy with this. He believed that actors should have room to explore their roles, but Eastwood wanted things done exactly as planned. Despite their differences, there was mutual respect between them. They both recognized each other's talent, even if they didn't always agree on how to approach their work. Eastwood admired Hackman's ability to bring depth to his characters, and Hackman respected Eastwood's ability to tell a compelling story. Another factor that contributed to their tension was their differing views on Hollywood and filmmaking. Eastwood was known for being conservative in his approach. He believed in hard work, discipline, and sticking to what had been proven to work. Hackman, on the other hand, was more open to change. He liked experimenting with new ideas and pushing boundaries. This fundamental difference in mindset affected how they interacted on set. Their age difference also played a role in their dynamic. At the time of Unforgiven, Eastwood was in his early 60s while Hackman was in his late 50s. Although the gap wasn't huge, they were at different points in their careers. Eastwood had already established himself as a successful director and actor, while Hackman was still focused on protecting his craft as an actor. This sometimes led to differences in perspective. Eastwood saw himself as a leader, while Hackman was more interested in diving deep into his performances. Even though they had their disagreements, both men delivered some of their best work in Unforgiven. Their on-screen rivalry added to the film's intensity, making it one of the most memorable westerns of all time. The tension between them may have been real, but it ultimately contributed to the authenticity of their performance. Over the years, Eastwood and Hackman continued to have successful careers, but they never worked together again after Unforgiven. Some say it was because of the tension on set, while others believe it was simply because their paths never crossed again professionally. Their careers crossed paths in a big way when they worked together on Unforgiven, and that became a classic that time around. But over time, their relationship seemed to fade. People noticed they were no longer seen together, and questions started to grow. So, did they have a falling out? Were they ever really friends? Or was their silence simply the result of two men taking different paths in life? On the set of Unforgiven, there were moments where their strong personalities clashed. Eastwood, who was also directing the movie, had a very specific vision. He liked to let scenes play out naturally without too much rehearsal. Hackman, however, was the kind of actor who wanted to dig deep into his character, exploring every little detail. Their approaches didn't always match, which led to some disagreements. Despite this, both men respected each other's talent. Even if they didn't always see eye to eye, they knew they were working with someone at the top of their game. The result was a powerful movie that won multiple awards, including the Oscar for Best Picture. Unforgiven proved to be a defining moment in both their careers, but after the film, their paths started to go in very different directions. After Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman continued working, but they were no longer working together. Over time, their connection seemed to fade. While they had never been the type of friends who spent a lot of time together outside of work, the distance between them became more noticeable. They were not seen at events together, and they did not publicly acknowledge each other for many years. One of the biggest reasons for this distance was Hackman's decision to step away from Hollywood. By the early 2000s, Hackman was in his 70s, and he made the choice to retire from acting. So that's all we have for today's episode. Don't hesitate to comment down your thoughts on their friendship, and while you're down there, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well.